ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man?
The Louie T Network is powered by the Card Collector Series. Join me, your man, Louie T, on my journey back into the card collecting space with the Card Collector Series on YouTube. Link is in the description. Who else could it be? With me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Championship Weekend here on the Louie T Network and continued coverage of the 2021 NFL postseason championship Sunday, I should say. And what a Sunday it was. Two phenomenal games that were ended by essentially field goals being the difference in the outcome. Overtime ending the first one as the Cincinnati Bengals punched their ticket from the AFC side of the bracket. And in the trilogy of family business out west in the NFC, the Los Angeles Rams snapped their 6-game losing streak to the San Francisco 49ers 20-17 in a kind of a game that I expected it to be. Back and forth, low scoring, defensive first, and the team that made the least amount of mistakes was going to win. And I've said this, and to me, this is a time-tested, true method when trying to predict winners at this stage of the tournament. The team with the best quarterback generally wins these types of games. Now, it's a team performance, and this game in particular had so many missed opportunities on both sides. And if you're a 49ers fan, you're screaming about the Jaquiski Tart play and how that was a game changer, could have altered the outcome of this game, sure. But if you're a Rams fan, you're saying, hey, Cooper Kupp had a drop that easily could have turned into a touchdown. You know, his catch and run is on 10. Obviously, the Ben Skowronek play in the end zone, if he catches that, that's a touchdown. They get no points on that possession. So because Matt Gay comes on and misses a 54-yard field goal, you turn around and get a field goal before half. It's a 10-point swing. So many different plays really altered the way that this game also ultimately went. But at the end of the day, what this game came down to was a handful of plays. And it was both quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford had a 3rd and 3, and he stood tall in the pocket with the pocket crumbling around him and threw an absolute laser shot to Cooper Kupp, who has been arguably the best player in the NFL this year, not just the best wide receiver, but arguably the best player in the NFL. The best part of waking up, the Rams, Cooper Kupp. Another 10-piece for him tonight, 130 some odd yards, and that big catch and run to set up that game-winning field goal. But that throw from Stafford, that's why they traded for him. That's why they gave up the 2 first-round picks right there. That's championship-level play right there, and that's a Super Bowl winning type throw. On the other side, Jimmy Garoppolo stands in there, and he can't get it done. Now, again, you know, there's extenuating circumstances. The pressure was on, and that's why, if you're the Rams, that's why you go out and get Von Miller. That's why you lock up Aaron Donald. That's why you have Leonard Floyd. That's why you go out and make all of those moves to make sure that in those situations, you're up late in the game. You need your defense to come out and get a stop to preserve the victory. They do that. So, but Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, give yourself a chance. You don't want to take a sack there. It would have only been 3rd down. You don't want to put yourself in a position. I think it would have been 4th down, actually. But you can't throw a pick there, right? I mean, you got to give yourself a chance. And, you know, he didn't give your team a chance there. But at the end of the day, you know, missed throws by both teams, missed opportunities by both teams, but the better team won this game. And at 17-7, after the George Kittle touchdown, I know a lot of you were sitting out there saying, oh my God, the 49ers are going to win this game. I never thought they were going to win this game. And the first time that I thought, man, maybe they may pull this out was when Jaquiski Tart had a chance to pick that pass off. Because at that time, it was 17-14. You pick that off, you're going to get some really good field position more likely than not. And even if you don't get a return, that thing was probably at the 35, 40-yard line because the Rams were backed up pretty deep in their own territory there. You're going to probably come out of that thing no worse than flipping the field position back, putting the 49 eating off 3 more minutes of clock, punting it again, and pinning them back down inside their own 10-yard line and forcing them to go the length of the field again. Or you're going to get some points, whether it's a touchdown to put this thing away or a field goal to extend it to 6 and force the Rams to need a touchdown. You're going to be in a really good spot there. And with the way this game was going, there weren't going to be too many more points scored at that juncture of the game. So that was a big play. And that was the only time there was a fleeting thought of, man, the 49ers may actually have enough in the tank to get it done. Maybe they do own these Rams, but it wasn't to be. The Rams were able to get the stops necessary, get that, again, take advantage of that dropped interception, Odell Beckham Jr. with the catch, then the 15-yard penalty on Jimmy Ward tacked on, and that essentially put them in the position they needed to get into field goal range after, a couple more completions. How about Blanton? And that's what the postseason is all about. Having guys step up and unsung heroes that you didn't necessarily know you were going to have to count on before the game started or before the postseason started. The Rams have had guys step up like Joe Noteboom did last week against Tampa. And in this game, I thought Blanton was outstanding. He had a big third down catch in this game. He had a couple of nice grabs, including that little wide receiver tight end screen they ran. Blanton was huge for them after Tyler Higbee went down with the injury. We still don't know the significance of that injury. Doesn't seem like it's good. But again, to have a guy step up like Blanton did, and that's what you need this time of the year, guys to step up. And unfortunately, there weren't enough plays made for the 49ers in this particular game, whether it's the failed fourth down. And I know what Kyle was trying to do with the Trent Williams play, where they line him up at fullback / H-back and send him in motion. And last week they got outside. He was essentially a lead blocker. And he tried to go against tendency there. But at the end of the day, the Rams were sitting on that. They probably were better off just going outside behind Trent Williams and seeing if he couldn't pave the way once again. But, it's those types of situations. They had one of those situations last week against Green Bay where they didn't convert. And, I always feel like in those situations, you got to be somewhat aggressive. I get it. The defense is really good and you want to put it on their shoulders. And the way this team has won this year, I can't argue with Kyle Shanahan's methods. I can't say you need to be aggressive. Remember, I was screaming in the Dallas game. If they had lost, remember there was a 4th and 1 that he decided not to go for, to take the delay of game and ultimately punt. I said, if you guys lose this game, it's going to be decisions like that cost you. You got to be aggressive in those situations. I thought right there in that situation, I thought the Rams were somewhat on their heels, even though they had rallied back, and I think it was tied at 17 at that moment of the game. I still felt like the pressure was on them. You're the 6th seed. You're in their building. Nobody thought you'd be here. Pressure's on them. Sean McVay, you could tell the pressure was on the Rams. McVay was out of timeouts with about 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter. This guy had no timeouts left. I mean, total joke. I mean, it was like a clinic on how not to squander your second half timeouts. I mean, it was a clown show with what he was doing over there. Wasted the first one on a poor challenge. Like, you're not winning on a quarterback sneak. You're not winning that challenge. Everybody knows. The lay fan at home knows. You don't challenge quarterback sneaks or anything that have to do with a pile where you really can't see where a guy is. You don't challenge those because you're not going to win. They're not going to overturn it. There's really no substance there, okay? There's no evidence that's going to lead them to overturn the call on the field. So that was a dumb challenge. I get it. It's 4th down. You don't want to give it to them at midfield. Well, then don't go for it. You know the rules to the game, then play. So that's a dumb challenge. Then I told you the Rams are one of the worst teams in the league at getting plays off. They seem, and this goes back to the Jared Goff era with Sean McVay. He's always sprinting to the referee at least twice a game, calling a timeout because they're about to have a delay of game. And you could have easily had the Rams flagged for 4 or 5 delay of games in this game. I tend to like when the officials, it can get to 0. The whole look at the clock, look back at the ball. If they still have it, then you throw the flag. I thought sometimes this year they've been actually doing it a lot quicker. But at the end of the day, you waste your second timeout that way. And then you waste your third timeout on a challenge that was just as stupid as the first challenge that you tried. Like, clearly he's down. Clearly that ball comes out late, and you're crying. And he's lucky Kyle doesn't go for it there. After I thought Kyle was going to man up and say, you know what? You want to be stupid and challenge? Okay. 4th and 2, let's go for it. I thought they were going to go for it, but in typical Kyle Shanahan fashion, he decides to go out there, try to draw him off sides and then punt. But his defense is good. I get it. I understand why he made those decisions. And that's how they win games. They don't win games being aggressive. They don't win games trying to outscore you. They win games trying to play complementary football. Special teams, Wishnowski, pin them down inside the 10-yard line. Defense, get a 3-and-out. Defense, force a turnover, get us great field position or score yourself. And offense, if they get that 3-and-out and they give you great field position, you got to do something with it. That's the kind of football that the 49ers have played to get them to this point. So I can't be mad at that. But at some point, you got to get somewhat aggressive. Scared money don't make money. But Sean McVay tried to piss this game away with some of the decisions he had. Luckily, he didn't need his timeouts at the end of the game. But had he did, or had there been a controversial call that needed to be challenged and he didn't have any more timeouts to challenge, it really could have come back to bite him in the ass. And you could tell that there was desperation on that Rams sideline, which is why I hearken back to the original point of they had all the pressure on them, which is why I would have been a little bit more aggressive in going for it because you got nothing to lose. Roll the dice. The Rams are the ones that have everything on the line. They pushed all their chips to the center of the table. Von Miller is not guaranteed to be back next season, right? Like this is what Odell Beckham Jr. is not guaranteed to be back next season. They went out on a limb to try and win a chip. All the pressure is on them. You need to go out and play carefree. And I thought they were a little too tight with the 49ers. But that said, got to credit the Rams for finding a way to get this done. It wasn't pretty. It was gritty. And most importantly, it was a dub. And that's how you got to beat the 49ers because they're going to make it an ugly football game. There is nothing aesthetically pleasing about how the 49ers go about their business, but it is the results that matter. And they've been finding ways to win. And so the Rams had to dirty it up. That's why they put pads on Thursday, because they understood that they had to be more physical. The 49ers have battered and bruised them and made them feel like they were a finesse team. They needed to be more physical. And in the crucial moments in this game, the Rams were the more physical team. On the third down, where the 49ers tried to go for it, and with the fullback dive, the fake, the Trent Williams motion action to the outside fullback dive, the Rams were the more physical team there. And you saw it in those situations. Sony Michel sticking his nose in there. Yeah, he was getting bulldozed on that play, but he stood in there just long enough to give Matthew Stafford the time to throw the biggest completion of the game to Cooper Kupp. The Rams, when they needed to be physical, they were the more physical team in this football game. And ultimately, they beat the 49ers at their own game. And in that final possession, when the 49ers needed their offensive line to give Jimmy some time, he had none. So got to give credit to the Rams. They beat the 49ers at their own game, and they advanced to the Super Bowl. Second time for Sean McVay getting to the Super Bowl in 4 years now, I believe, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, so 18 was the last time they were there. They did not show up the last time, only scored 3 points in the Super Bowl versus the Patriots. I assume it'll be different this time around, but it should be an interesting matchup. But kudos to the Rams for getting it done. My guy Coop, my barber, King Coop, was so excited for this, and he felt like they had a chance to go all the way. And he didn't believe in Matthew Stafford at the beginning of the season. But I think for those of you out there that didn't buy the Matthew Stafford narrative, didn't buy him as a quarterback that could get it done in these types of situations, I told you that he had a chance to change the narrative this postseason. He never really played in meaningful games in Detroit. He had a few playoff games with the Lions, but hadn't won any of them. Their team wasn't good enough to do anything anyway, but he got hosed in one of those games. That doesn't matter. The bottom line is he hadn't been tested. He hadn't been battle tested. He hadn't been put in these situations, in high leverage situations where plays had to be made by the quarterback. And the last 2 weeks, he was put in those exact situations. His mettle was tested, and Matthew Stafford came out passing both of those tests with flying colors. And for anyone out there that doubted Matthew Stafford's abilities or didn't think he had the clutch gene or the ability to get it done in these types of situations, hopefully he's put that to rest for you. There's one more game, and it doesn't get any bigger than the one in 2 weeks. But the Rams aren't here if Matthew Stafford doesn't make the plays against the Buccaneers to set up the game-winning field goal. The Rams are not here if he doesn't throw that strike to Cooper Kupp. All right. The Rams are not here if Matthew Stafford doesn't play at the level that he has played in this postseason. He was damn near flawless against the Cardinals in Wild Card Weekend. He made all the plays he had to make in the divisional round. And then the biggest drive of the game, he stepped up and did some of his best work of his career. And then this game here in the championship game made a championship level throw to Cooper Kupp with the game on the line to put them in a position to win this game, and that they did. So the Matthew Stafford narrative continues to evolve and change, but he's got one more hurdle and obstacle to overcome. You want to ascend from the group of, that second tier with Dak Prescott and Derek Carr and all those guys, Matt Ryan, all those guys hanging around there. You want to separate yourself, go get you a chip. You want to go to the rung of elite because the numbers state that Matthew Stafford is an elite quarterback. You put his numbers up at this point of his career with any of the greats, he's right there. The numbers are there. But the hardware is not. The postseason experience is not. That could all change if he's able to get this Rams team their first Lombardi trophy on February 13th, Super Bowl 56. Rams will be at home again. And unlike the game they played today, and look, credit to the Rams fans. A lot was made of this situation with the Rams starting out the week saying, hey, we're not selling any tickets to people in certain area codes. We're going to try to keep this thing local. You weren't going to shut these 49ers fans out. If they wanted tickets, they were going to get tickets. And 49ers fans showed up in droves like they always do. But credit to the Rams fans that came out and made it a difficult environment for the 49ers. It wasn't like week 18 where it was a total shit show and the 49ers took over that. They rummaged and pillaged that village and took over and made it a home game. That's not what it was today. Rams fans showed up, showed out, made noise. They accounted for a delay of game late in the ball game when the 49ers needed to put together a drive. They showed up and they had an impact on this game as well. So a lot was made of the crowd and what would happen and what the split would be. Just know this, the Rams fans showed up and showed out and had an impact on this game. And I'd like to think that they can have an even bigger impact next week because I don't expect Cincinnati's fans to travel as well as the 49ers fans. Now, again, it's the Super Bowl. Bengals fans haven't been here since the 80s. They're dying to get to a Super Bowl. And so who knows? They may show up in droves. I'd like to think that the Rams fans will really have this market cornered. And I think they'll be able – the fact that the Rams are in it, it's in L.A. I think a lot of stars are going to show up. I think that the Rams are going to have the advantage in terms of the crowd in the Super Bowl. But we will see. But big game for the Rams. Get the win. Sean McVay is off the hook, even though I did not think this was one of his better coaching outings. He gets the win. His team stepped up, made plays when they needed to. Jalen Ramsey had an opportunity to make a pick. Again, this was a game of missed opportunities by both sides. So at the end of the day, I felt like it all evened out and the better team won. That's ultimately what happened because the Rams had their fair share of opportunities. Every game, you're going to get a Jimmy G offering that should be picked off. It's a matter of, can you catch? And are you looking to be a playmaker? Ramsey decided to go with the body catch instead of his hands, and the ball ricocheted off of his shoulder pad. Had he went with his hands, might have been a different outcome. Bottom line is mistakes and missed opportunities on both sides, but the Rams were able to be triumphant because, frankly, they're just the better team. Let's see what you guys have to say. We start out with Niners fan. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Niners fan, writes, disappointing end, Lou. Rams own us now. It sucks. I wouldn't say they own you now. Again, you won 6 in a row. That streaks are made to be broken. That was going to end at some point. You hate that it ended in the NFC Championship game. You rather it end in week 8, in a game that allows you to, bounce back and get them next week instead of having it end like this. But, you're going to win the rest of games from now to eternity against these Rams. You're going to lose at some point. And it's hard to say they own you now that you lost one game. You essentially won 6 out of the last 7 against the Rams. So it stings. And I know that's just frustration coming out. But if you're a Niners fan, and obviously you're a Niners fan, it's hard to do this right now because the loss is so fresh and the sting of this loss hurts right now, and it's going to hurt for a little while because there were opportunities for you to win this game and you were up 17-7. So you're going to think about all the opportunities missed to put this game away, but think about the roller coaster that you were on this year. And anybody that's been on these overtime streams knows how Niners fan has gone through the emotions of this season, at one point wanting to question the Shanahan and Lynch union in San Francisco, wondering if time might be up for Shanahan and maybe it's time for him to go and them to maybe start anew, talking about how this season was done. And then you started to win some games, and then you looked up at the standing and you said, why not us? Why can't? And then you had one of those ugly losses, and then you say, okay, it's done. And then you go out and you beat Cincinnati on the road, and that's when I knew, okay, they're not playing around. They're going to make the playoffs. And so then you get to the playoffs and you say, okay, they got Dallas. I like the matchup. I told you I thought you would win the game. You did that. But then the next week, you're going to Green Bay. And you even came on after that game and said, we're going to get run by the Packers. We have no answer for Devontae Adams. We're going to get run by the Packers. And then you find a way to stay close, give yourself a chance, and then special teams dominates that game, and you ultimately walk out of Lambeau Field a winner. And now you're thinking, hey, why not us? We've beaten the Rams 6 times in a row. We took over their stadium in week 18. This is a great matchup for us. I'm not afraid of anybody on the AFC side of the bracket. Why not us this year? And so it's a roller coaster of emotions. Then you get let down in the championship game, even though your team gave it a valiant effort. I would say this to you. You and any 49ers fan out there, you got nothing to be ashamed of. Honestly, you overachieved this year. This is a hell of a coaching job by Kyle Shanahan. There's a hell of an effort by a team that was ready to move on to a rookie quarterback that they drafted. Everybody and their mama said, hey, what are we doing? I mean, at one point you even said, what are we doing? Take Jimmy G out. Let's roll with Trey Lance and let's just see what the kid has, because we're not going anywhere this season. You said that out of your own mouth at one point, and Kyle stuck with his guns even when Jimmy G got injured. And Trey Lance had to come in. Jimmy G stuck, or Kyle Shanahan stuck to his gut and his guns, said, no, Trey's not ready yet. We're going to stick with Jimmy G. And it turned out to be the best thing that happened. Even though Jimmy G stinks, you still weren't going to get this far with Trey Lance at quarterback. It just wasn't going to happen, not in his rookie season. So, honestly speaking, for you guys to even be in this position, you got to say to yourself, and it's going to take a while for you to get to this point for some of you, but you got to be able to take a step back and say, you know what? That was a hell of a season. I mean, truly, this 49ers team overachieved in just about every facet, known to mankind. The run game, we know that's what they do. The defense, who thought that losing Robert Saleh, this defense could start out the way that they did early in the season and then morph into what they ultimately became under DeMeco Ryans? Who knew that? And we knew, I told you, I've been talking about Deebo Samuel. Who? Deebo. I'm going to just go ahead and tuck mine in. We knew that this guy was a beast, but they unlocked another dimension of Deebo. Felt so bad for the kid on the sidelines, crying his eyeballs out, because he knows you're not guaranteed these opportunities. You get that close, you can taste it, and then it's snatched away from you. That's a bitter pill to swallow. And again, you're not guaranteed to get here. Jimmy Garoppolo has played his last game more likely than not in San Francisco. Who knows if Trey Lance is any good? If he is, you could be right back here, right? But if he isn't, it could be a while before you get here. And 49ers fans knows it could be a while because you've gone through that before. The Mike Nolan years, it's been some lean years there. So you're hoping that Trey Lance is the real deal. With Kyle Shanahan there, I don't see any way that the bottom falls out of this thing. But hell of a season. I said all of that to say this. Hell of a season, and you overachieved. And nobody wants to hear this. There are no silver linings. There is no consolation prize here. Second place isn't rewarded. I know all of that. Nobody's looking for the little bronze necklace you get and job well done. We'll get them next time. Nobody wants to hear that. But this is a hell of a season. You even have to admit that as a 49ers fan, as a 6th seed, to do what you did, the damage you were able to do to get where you got, where you were, say week 6, 7 of the season to where you are now. Hats off to the 49ers. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Red Wings 01 writes, the Rams trades are almost paid off. Man, I am happy for Stafford. After all the years of pain, he has a chance to beat the narrative and get that ring. That's the guy you got to be happy for. You know, Matthew Stafford, unless you just can't stand Matthew Stafford for some reason, you got to be happy for Stafford, man, because he was rotting away in Detroit. And honestly, I don't think a lot of people understood how good Matthew Stafford was, just because the Rams never played on national television, and for good reason. They stunk a lot of the time, and they never put a great team around Stafford. He never had a real defense, and even when the defense was good, there were other circumstances holding him back, whether it would be coaching, whether it be a lack of run game or a lack of dedication to the run. You know, it was always something, injuries, something always went awry in Detroit. And I don't think people honestly knew what Matthew Stafford was doing out there. He would play hurt. He would give the Lions everything he had. He would put them in positions to win ball games, only for the defense to squander it. And for him to finally get this opportunity, it wasn't always pretty. You know, I think he threw an interception in this game and could have thrown a second, should have thrown a second. But when plays had to be made, and this is what I always talk about with these quarterbacks this time of the year, when plays have to be made, can you make them? Are you capable of making them? And that's what separates quarterbacks this time of the year. We saw it in the first game. When plays had to be made, Joe Burrow made all of the plays, including with his legs. And we saw Patrick Mahomes kind of clam up for the first time in a long time. Like, that's not what we're accustomed to seeing Mahomes do. But I didn't think he was seeing the field very well, you know? And he didn't want to make that big mistake. And that's not the Patrick Mahomes we've come to know and love. But again, you know, as you continue to evolve, you know, you honestly start to understand how precious the football is, especially this time of the year, and how turnovers can be devastating. Even if it's one that acts as a punt, it's just a mind thing. It's just a momentum thing. A punt feels different than an interception, even if the net difference is the exact same. If you throw up a bomb on 3rd and 18, it gets picked off. That feels a lot different, even if it's a 50-yard, you know, as soon as you pick it off, you fall down, you're touched, and it's 50 yards the other way, and the punt would have been the same exact thing. It just feels different. You know, turnovers feel different. So I thought that Stafford got it done, just like Burrow did in the first game. Stafford got it done when they had to have it. So the Rams trades are almost paid off. You're right. Because if you win a Super Bowl, that's the ultimate goal. Even if it's only one, it'll all be worth it. Because that's why they did all of this. That's why they traded for Brandon Cooks. That's why they traded for Jalen Ramsey. That's why they traded for Von Miller. That's why they signed Odell Beckham Jr. That's why they traded for Sony Michel. That's why they gave away all these first-round picks. That's why they traded for Matthew Stafford. That's why they don't have a first-round pick until 2024. That's why they traded for Jalen Ramsey. For moments like this, if they win the Super Bowl, it'll all be worth it. If they don't win the Super Bowl, then none of it was worth it. Just Andre, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Just Andre, writes, thoughts on drafting Garrett Wilson at 11? No. That's too high. And I honestly don't see that happening. So I'll thank you for being a member of the MOBB. I don't see that happening. Not at 11. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Excuse me, my guy Metaphor, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, proud of Stafford, Hall of Famer. Now that's a question that we'll be able to debate if he wins the Super Bowl. You can't have that discussion right now, because to me right now, the real question is, the first question was, can he even get to a point where that's a discussion? I think what he's done in this postseason, what he's done this year with the Rams, look, he's still was among the leaders in interceptions. Like, he wasn't like outstanding to the point where you're like, oh my God, this was a hidden gem in Detroit for all these years, which is what he was. But that's not what people were screaming after the regular season was done. You know, it took until, and honestly, I didn't care about the regular season with Matthew Stafford, to be honest with you, because in my mind, I'm like, I've seen regular season Matthew Stafford, and I know what he's capable of. My thing was, what does postseason Matthew Stafford look like? What can that guy provide for a team? And he's shown us that. So if he wins the Super Bowl, that's when the discussion starts to take place of Hall of Famer. And I think the answer then is yes. And obviously, his career is not done. He's going to put up more numbers, more stats. And by the time he's done, he'll probably be in the top 5 to 7 in every statistical category passing in this league. And you throw a Super Bowl ring in that mix, and I think the answer to that is yes. But you got to win the Super Bowl. I think for Matthew Stafford's legacy, the Super Bowl is a must. And then that conversation can happen. He says, Ron, if only Matt to Washington football team, I'd like, he wouldn't have been in this position. We wouldn't have maximized Matthew Stafford with our team. He says, not that we had the team behind. Okay, there you go. He says, happy for a past friend's Lions team, even if only Stafford. And I think a lot of Lions fans probably feel that way, like happy for Stafford, because this dude laid it out on the line for them each and every single week. There were times where he didn't have any business playing in a ball game. They got nothing on the line. They stink. Their season's pretty much done. And Matthew Stafford's rolling it out there in a week 17 meaningless game because that's Matthew Stafford. So, yeah, I think that a lot of people are happy for Matthew Stafford, including Lions fans right now. Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Trevor Patch writes, bittersweet game for me. Loved watching Trent get pancaked. Hope someone put on the parental controls at the Snyders. Dan going back to buying a ticket. I watched all of these playoff games the same way I watch them every year, as a fan first of just the NFL in general, but then, with my Washington, rose-colored glasses on, saying, hey, this is what we need to do. How far are we truly away? What pieces can we get to immediately affect change? And, again, I'll tell you this. This was the biggest takeaway watching the NFC Championship game in particular. Ron Rivera probably had an erection this entire game. And the reason why is because this is how Ron Rivera wants to play football. Like the 49ers team that we just watched for these 3 games, that's exactly what Ron Rivera wants us to look like. That's how his Panthers teams won. That's how we won during that 4-game streak when he was getting amped and talking about nobody dictates to us and, the whole rock and this, that, and the third. We were winning games 17-15. We were winning games, 20-17. We were winning games 17-16 or 17-14 or 15, whatever. That's how we were winning ball games. We weren't blowing anybody out. And in his mind, hard-nosed defense, a little bit of the run game, don't turn it over, play smart, play field position, complementary football. That's how you win. And again, you can get away with that for only so long, but eventually your quarterback in that system, in that situation, is going to have to make some plays. And that's, you saw when we had to have some plays made in situations, and it didn't necessarily just fourth quarter, third downs. It's early in ball games when Dallas is blitzing us and Heineke panics and fumbles the football. Like, these are situations, the offensive line got their asses kicked, but I'm pretty sure they come in with that many guys, somebody's open. So when you look at how the 49ers played, they showed that in the NFC, because you can't run that shit out west. You can't go to the AFC with that shit. Not with Burrow and Mahomes and Allen and Herbert and those boys stalking around for the next day. You can't go out there with that shit and think you're going to win anything. However, if you really, have a defense some good special teams, including a consistent, reliable field goal kicker, and a quarterback that's solid. They just showed you got a chance in the NFC, especially if Brady's retiring, which I still find it hard to believe. But especially if Brady's retiring, if Aaron Rodgers goes the hell away as well, the NFC's wide ass open. Like, there's no dominant team. There's no dominant quarterback. Now, obviously, dominoes are still left to be decided. And, Deshaun Watson could end up in the NFC for all we know. And he could easily come over to the NFC and be the best quarterback in the conference and have it not be close that quickly. But I looked at this game and I said, we're not that far away if this is what it takes to win. But we're not good enough because we don't have enough stuff. We don't have enough defensive studs. We don't have enough. We don't have a guy that looks like Deebo Samuel. As much as we love Terry, Terry's not Deebo Samuel. There aren't many of those. And we don't have a Cooper Kupp. We don't have a Jamar Chase. We don't have a Tyreek Hill. We don't have a Travis Kelce. We don't have a guy that looks like that takes over games, that you have to, like. Terry McLaurin is really good, and we've had this conversation before. I think some of you overrate Terry, and you want to blame the quarterbacks for Terry not having, much bigger stats, and some of that is true. There are times when Terry gets past cornerbacks and the ball is short, and Terry's got to try to make a play on it, and he's not able to. But what we watched this postseason, with the final, let's call it the final 8 teams. Let's go all the way back to the divisional round with the final 8 teams. All of them had a guy at one of the skill positions, whether it's tight end or wide receiver or both, even running back in certain instances, that you look and you say, how the hell do we stop that guy? We're going to probably have to dedicate 2 guys to him, or he's going to kick our ass all game. You look at the Titans, A.J. Brown is that dude. He's big, he's physical, he can go up and get it. They also had Julio, even though he hasn't been a massive, contributor this year. He's still Julio Jones at the end of the day. And then they got Derrick Henry, even though he was coming off of an injury, he's still King Henry. You look at the Cincinnati Bengals, I don't have to explain to you. They got a quarterback and they got Jamar Chase. We can stop the discussion there, but they also got a bunch of other guys, as we saw today, in T. Higgins, Joe Mixon and company, that can get it done. All right, so then you go to the next game. You look at the Packers, Devontae Adams, case closed. All right, you go to the 49ers, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle, case closed. You go to the next game. You got Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got a slew of guys. But they got Mike Evans. The rest of those guys are hurt. Doesn't matter. They got Mike Evans and Gronk. Okay? Then you go to the next team. In the Rams, Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham Jr. Shame on you if you step to the old dirty Beckham. But Cooper Kupp is playing out of his gourd this year. Okay? So then you go to the next game. And it's the nightcap. And it's Bills and it's Chiefs. And they take Stephon Diggs out of the mix. Said, you're not going to beat us. So who steps up? Their third receiver goes apeshit for 8 catches, 201 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Their third receiver. Meanwhile, the Chiefs already have Tyreek Hill and Kelce, and there's nothing else to discuss. So when I look at the postseason, that's one of the things I walk away saying. We need another dog. We need a guy, because Terry by himself is cool, but he needs a road dog. He needs another dude, because he can't do it by himself. He's not a take over a game by himself type of guy. And we need a quarterback, obviously. that goes without saying, though. Anyway, I digress. Dylan Hinton, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, just want us to go to the Super Bowl, man. It doesn't work like that. You can't just hope and wish you make it to a Super Bowl. You gotta have a roster full of people, full of guys that are committed, that are good enough, that stay healthy, that come together and play the kind of football that gives you an opportunity. I mean, there's so many things that go into making a Super Bowl run. Health is one of the biggest ones. You don't have health, you don't have a chance. And then you need a roster that's tight-knit, that plays for one another, that understands what needs to be done. You need guys that are going to make plays when plays are there to be made, but also going to be level-headed. You saw some plays by the 49ers in this game that cost them, that easily could have cost them, them doing dumb shit like Fred Warner essentially headbutting Matthew Stafford. Like, what are you doing, guy? Luckily, that wasn't called. I thought, honestly, today with the officiator, I thought they let a lot of shit go. And that's the way I prefer it, honestly. I saw a lot of plays. Like, Mecole Hardman is literally a foot out of bounds, and he gets hit by Jermaine Pratt. And I'm like, in the regular season, 5 flags are on the ground from that one. But they watched Jermaine Pratt hit that man 5 seconds after he was out of bounds, and they didn't do a damn thing other than say, all right, man, y'all break it up. I love it, personally. Let them play ball. You know what I'm saying? As long as they don't cross the line, you let them play ball. And I thought they did that, in both games, honestly speaking. But at the end of the day, it takes a lot to make it to the Super Bowl. And, if you don't have all those things going for you, it's going to be tough. And we don't have a lot of those things. It's about a checklist of about 7 to 10 things. And every year we don't have at least 4 or 5 of those items, ready to go. And if you don't have some of those things, and the most important one being the quarterback, you just don't have a chance. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, what up, Lou? What up, Jay? L. Smooth says, so happy for Stafford and Bengals fans. I can't bring myself to root for the Rams, though, mostly because of 5 and his opinion of JA17. JG played well for most of the game, but I knew he'd cost them in the end. And that's the crazy part. Jimmy G actually wasn't terrible in this game. To your point, he actually played solid football. He missed George Kittle on the first possession of the game, had him wide open over the middle of the field. So did Stafford, who had a wide open Odell Beckham and threw it behind him. So both quarterbacks came out with a little bit of nerves. It's the NFC Championship game, a little antsy, get it. But I thought Jimmy settled down, made some throws, made some plays, got out of trouble a couple of times, used his legs, even though, with some minimal gains, it's better than 8-yard sack. So I actually thought Jimmy wasn't that bad, but I thought that there were some opportunities that were missed. And, at the end of the game, when he almost threw the pick to Jalen Ramsey, you could see the shit unraveling. Like, okay, it's a big moment, and Jimmy G's starting to shrink, So, like certain quarterbacks, team takes the lead with 1:42, left in the fourth quarter, and you got a couple of times you're like, man, shit. At minimum, they're getting a field goal. They might win this bad boy in regulation. I never felt like Jimmy G was going down to take them to tie the game up. And I said, unless Deebo Samuel gets loose on some shit or George Kittle gets loose on some shit, or they fall asleep and Brandon Ayuk blesses them, I just don't see how they get in the field goal range or score a touchdown and win this thing. Like, Jimmy G's not leading them down the field. They make quick, short work of that whole possession. Like, okay, let's just end this now. No suspense. No 49ers getting to midfield and being within, 15 yards of potentially trotting Robbie Gould on the field to put that, playoff postseason field goal made streak on the line from 56. Now, we're not even going to allow that to be a thing. Let's just put this away. As for Jalen Ramsey and his opinion of Josh Allen, that was when Josh Allen was a young pup. I think he has a totally different feel about Josh Allen. Now, he has to. Like, I think he said that when Jacksonville lost, if I'm not mistaken, to the Bills, or the Bills Jacksonville beat the Bills. That was that same year. I want to say that was 2018, if I'm not mistaken. 2017. It had to be 17 because Allen was 2018 and he's been a starter since he got in the league. So it had to be 2017 when Tyrod Taylor led. It was 17 because that was the year the Jacksonville Jaguars made to the NFC Championship game. So I think back, in those days when Allen was a rookie, it was easy to say stuff like that. Even into his second year, I don't think people still saw it, even though I knew this guy was destined for stardom. That I knew it coming out of Wyoming. I would have been shocked if he didn't turn out to be. I didn't think he was going to be this good this quickly, but I thought, yeah, he's going to turn into one of these guys that can carry a team. I think he's got to feel different about him now, but I get it. That's what we do as fans. We hold grudges. So I think if you're a fan of football, you got to be happy for Stafford. Even if you can't stand the rest of their team, got to be happy for Stafford right now. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Derek B writes, could see early that it was which quarterback would lose the game. You kind of did see that, especially with the first possession, each quarterback trading missed opportunities on third down. And so you kind of said, okay, who's going to settle down and give their team a chance? I thought Jimmy settled down and started to play quality ball. I thought he made some good throws. And I thought, till we got into the third, into the fourth quarter, I thought he was managing the game well. And that's all they really asked him to do, which is why I can't see anybody trading for Jimmy G this offseason. I think the 49ers are going to have to release him. And he'll end up on a squad and he'll get an opportunity, if he gets his walking papers. I can't see anybody giving up anything of substance for Jimmy Garoppolo, because to me, that 49ers offense was tailor-made for his skill set. Quick release. I think Jimmy Garoppolo's best balls are over the middle of the football field. And a lot of their routes are in-breaking routes for the 49ers. A lot of their damage is done over the middle of the football field, where I think Jimmy Garoppolo throws his best ball. So I just don't see Jimmy Garoppolo going somewhere else and just completely, doing a 180. This is who he is as a quarterback now. He's been in the league long enough. There's a large enough sample size that if pressure is applied on Jimmy Garoppolo, he's going to do something stupid at some point. So I can't imagine anybody investing anything significant in him. If somebody says, hey, I thought you were a late round pick, you're going to lose him. Just let me slide you this 6 and we'll call it even. Maybe the 49ers. But again, nobody's doing that because then you have to take on the contract of Jimmy Garoppolo. No one's trying to pay him what the rest of that contract looks like. I just see the 49ers having to cut bait and then somebody saying, all right, Jimmy, let's see what you got. But yeah. I think his time in San Francisco is numbered. You saw that last shot of him sitting on the bench shaking his head because he knew this was it. He knew it was going. This was it. It's been a wild ride, and he was enjoying himself, but this is it. Ride's come to an end, and he'll probably be donning a new uniform come next year. But I thought Stafford made enough plays. He wasn't clean in this game by any stretch of the imagination. Should have been picked off again. But again, when plays needed to be made, and so – okay, 49ers give you life. Jaquaski Tart drops the interception. What do you come back and do? You throw a dime to Odell Beckham in the honey hole of that cover 2 defense and get a 15-yard attack on the end of it, and now you're in business. Like, that's what you got to do. You got to erase that last play that was a horrible decision and throw from your memory bank, come back and throw a dime, and that's what he did. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Metaphor writes, Rams with back-to-back home games for the chip. That's crazy. First time in NFL history that a team hosted the championship game and then will turn around and play in the Super Bowl. First of all, we never had a team play the Super Bowl in their home stadium until last year with the Bucs, but they were the visiting team. Remember, they were, if I'm not mistaken, the 5 seed, in the NFC playoffs last year. So they didn't even play a home game the entire way through the postseason until they got to the Super Bowl, which they weren't technically the home team, but they were in their home stadium. This is totally different. The Rams hosted the championship game. They had no business hosting it. They were the 4 seed. They shouldn't have been in a position to play a home game, but that's how wacky and haywire the playoffs have been this year, that the 4 seed was playing the 6 seed in the NFC. So they were able to get a home playoff game, and now they're going to turn around. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to travel. They get to sleep in their own beds. This is set up for the Rams to be successful. Now, can they take advantage of this opportunity? Santiago Tradell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Santiago writes, blessings, Lou. Likewise to you and yours, Santiago. He says, big ups to my nephew, Bobby Brown III in the LA Rams. I was in Tampa for that win. Now I'm going to the Super Bowl in LA. Enjoy. Stay safe. Stay safe. And I know you stay on the move, man, with these football games, because I know your son, or it might have been a relative, might not have been your son, but it was a relative, I believe, that was playing for, I want to say it was Texas A&M. So you were going from here to there, or it might have been some other team. I just remember you traveling and stuff. So there you go again, on the move. All I ask is that you keep yourself and family as safe as possible, but enjoy, man. Have a blast. Have a blast. John Livingston. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy JL Smooth writes, when Stafford threw that pick early in the end zone, I was worried. Glad he came through. I don't know, Lou. There was a ton of red in that stadium. There was a lot of red, and that's what we expected. It was not as much as it was in week 18. Had you seen it in week 18, you'd have said, whoa. I mean, literally, it was like they were playing in Santa Clara. Okay. That wasn't the case this game. Now, look, there were plenty of 49ers fans there, and they were plenty loud. Stafford still had to go on a silent count. He still had to tap his center for the football, okay? So I'm not sitting here saying that Rams fans dominated the stadium to the point where Stafford could go on a normal, snap count and his offensive line could hear him and he could tell the crowd to shush down when he needed him to. No, it was still loud. 49ers fans showed up and they were loud and proud. However, the Rams fans combated that and made it feel somewhat like a home game. It wasn't a two-way go for the 49ers where the crowd was loud when they were on defense and quiet when they were on offense, so they were allowed to work. This was different. This was, hey, yeah, 49ers fans are here, so it's going to be tough for Stafford and company to hear, so probably going to go on a silent count. But guess what? Same shit applied for Jimmy G and the 49ers as well. It was actually a true road game for them where that was not the case in week 18. So as far as the pick in the red zone early in the game, that was a force by Stafford. You hate to see it. Know you want to make a play there, but you got an opportunity to get points. And it's situations like that can come back to haunt you, that can come back and bite you. We saw it in the first game. Mahomes not getting points on that possession at half, right before the half, and it came back to haunt them. In those situations, you got to come away with points. So he was lucky that didn't ultimately backfire and doom them later on in the game. But he did respond after that pick. Andrew Scholl, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Drew writes, Lou, what's up? First time super chatting. What's up with you, Drew, man? Really appreciate you. Glad to hear from you. My guy Drew writes, during these playoff games, I definitely have seen the gap between how a QB versus a game manager takes you. Looking forward to seeing your Malik Willis QB analysis, and he'll be up next, so you won't have to wait much longer for that. This is the time of the year where you get to see that. During the course of the year, everybody's playing, and there's some bad quarterbacks out there, so it makes your situation not look as dire. Because you start comparing yourself to other bad teams, and you think, well, our situation ain't as bad as theirs. Or you look at a team that's, getting by, and it's not terrible, but it's not great. And you're saying, shit, ours is comparable to that. But this is the time of the year where you realize, all right, all that shit we were talking about, all those teams that were barely getting a bye or who stunk that we were comparing ourselves to, that ain't who we need to be comparing ourselves to. This is what it looks like right here. This is what championship level ball looks like. That's what game-changing quarterback play looks like. And we're not even remotely close to that. And if you're cool with a game manager like Ryan Tannehill, that's fine. He'll get you to the playoffs with a competent defense, a run game, and some skill guys around him that make plays. He'll get you to the playoffs. But then when he needs to make a play, you're going to see the difference between a Joe Burrow and a Ryan Tannehill. You'll see the difference between a Matthew Stafford and a Jimmy Garoppolo. And you might say to yourself, well, the difference isn't that great. Garoppolo wasn't terrible. Stafford's numbers weren't all that great. Stafford made the plays when winning plays had to be made. Same cannot be said for Jimmy Garoppolo. So thank you for the super chat, Andrew. Greatly appreciate you. John Livingston. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, John, writes, I mean, it doesn't really need to be said, but it kind of does. Deebo Samuel is an absolute dog. Better QB play with him, Ayuk and Kittle. Come on, man. If Trey Lance is what I think he can be, and I think Trey Lance is going to be a stud, personally. I think the Shanahan offense is the perfect offense for his skill set. Remember, I said this during the draft. I said the reason I was adamant the 49ers would take Lance. Despite all the Mac Jones rumors and all this, that, and the third, and what they were going to do, I said it's got to be Trey Lance because there isn't a single quarterback that I've seen come out in the last 5 to 7 years that has a better match with Kyle Shanahan's offense than Trey Lance. His skill set is identical to what they envision their quarterback looking like and running. You know, that he essentially ran the same offense at North Dakota State. So he's shown the ability to be able to do it. Now it's just a matter of him being consistent. He didn't play a ton of football in college, but if he is what I think he has a chance to be, look out, because I just want to talk about Brandon Ayuk for a second. Think about where he started and where he finished this season at. The man at the beginning of the season was behind Trent Sherfield on the depth chart. Like, Trent Sherfield was starting at the beginning of the year. And I vividly remember Kyle Shanahan saying, he's not playing because he needs to earn reps. He needs to play better than the guys in front of him. And right now, those guys are better than him in practice and on the game field. They're better than him. And until he starts playing like the guy that we drafted in the first round, he won't see the field. That's essentially what Kyle Shanahan said. And Ayuk wasn't playing all that much. And he was a very insignificant factor for the 49ers. And then as the season wore on, he started to gain confidence. And they started to gain confidence in him. And he got more opportunities. And he started making plays. And now all of a sudden, he's morphed into that number 2 receiver that they so desperately needed opposite of Deebo Samuel. And now with the emergence of Juwan Jennings as a third option, and then Kittle, there's enough weapons there in San Francisco for them to really do something big if they hit it right with Trey Lance at the quarterback position. Absolutely. Burger the Butcher, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Burger the Butcher writes, Jimmy G who? His mama named him James. I'm going to call him James. Is that his real name? Is his real name James? James P. Garoppolo. If his mama named him James, I'm going to call him James. I'm going to look it up too. Matter of fact, I'm going to look it up right now. If his mama named him James, I'm going to start calling him James. James P. Garoppolo. Let's see if Jimmy's real name is James. James Richard Garoppolo. Mama named him James, like Burger the Butcher said. Mama named him James. I'm gonna call him James. James didn't get it done today, and in these spots, you want James to be big game James, but he was lame game James, and this is why the 49ers are gonna move on from him this offseason. And it's crazy because his record in the postseason, his record in the regular season, I think a lot of that has to do with the teams he's been on and what has been around him in New England and now San Francisco. But he's won. Say what you want about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's won everywhere he's gone. But trust me, when the surrounding pieces in the environment don't insulate him and, you know, you win despite him or in spite of him, that record's going to change, especially if he goes somewhere where the team isn't all that great, which if a team's looking for a quarterback, more likely than not, it's not a great squad. You know what I'm saying? And if the best you can do is getting your hands on Jimmy Garoppolo, you're really not going to be a great squad. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands and what kind of opportunity he gets moving forward. Dejan Bell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Dejan writes, Lou, I think putting Kyle Fuller at free safety and drafting a guy like Sauce G or hoping that Derek S falls to us, it's a great recipe for success. P.S. Grizzlies buns. Hashtag Mavs. First of all, we're winning the division and it's not close. Now you've beaten us, you know, a couple of times here. You knocked our streak off. We were tired. And you caught us at the perfect time, you know. And then the last game, we had so many dudes in protocol, it wasn't even funny. So you've caught us at some good times and you've gotten us. But by no means are your Mavs a team that when we're semi full strength, because we haven't been full strength all season. We've been pretty much playing all year without our best defender. And yet our defensive rating has shot up from one of the worst in the league to like 9th overall. We're going to be just fine. Anyway, enough basketball talk. I told you I'm not a Sauce Gardner guy. I got to watch more tape. From the times I've watched him in game, I haven't been overly impressed. Kyle Fuller if they thought he gave us a better chance at safety, they would have moved him already. I think they feel better about him at the cornerback position than they do at safety. So we'll see what they decide to do. I don't see him making a positional switch. I think he's a corner. I think they view him as a corner. I wanted him at one point to kick inside the nickel. I think those days are gone for him. I think he's a boundary corner at this point. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. But we need a nickel. I know that. Watching these games today in particular, it intensified my desire to get us a nickel. Watching Mike Hilton work, and yeah, it's a lot of tugging, grabbing, hugging, and loving inside, but that's what it's about. You do what you do, and you get away with what you can get away with. But those guys play some sticky coverage inside. Mike Hilton and K'Wan Williams for the 49ers, they play some sticky coverage inside. And they both had some tough tasks today. You know, one was chasing around Tyreek Hill, the other was chasing around Cooper Kupp, and they both held their own. We need a nickel bad. Not bad, real bad. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. JL Smooth writes, Gabriel Davis is a dog as well. Yes, he is. And I remember I didn't love him coming out of UCF. I thought he was a one-trick pony. They literally would line him out all the way close to the sidelines. Like he'd literally be 3 steps away from the sidelines and he'd just run a go ball. That was it. Like his tape at UCF was all go balls. Him just running by dudes. And I'm like, he ain't doing that shit at the next level. The hell he ain't. And he's running routes. We saw the crossover he put on Mike Hughes, put him on the seat of his damn pants. Gabe Davis is a dog. Emmanuel Sanders said during training camp that he'd be a lot of teams' number one, excited to see him next year. You know what? That might be true. He might be some team's number one. Straight up. Dude's a dog. But it's easy to say that when you're the number 3 and you're eating. I've seen a lot of number 2s try to be number 1s and realize, man, that shit is not as easy as it looks. You know, that's a grown man task. Terry McLaurin talks about it all the time. The responsibility of being a number 1, getting the other team's best corner and knowing that they're going to try to shut you down and you got to find a way to get open. That shit is not easy. But Gabe Davis is eating as the number 3. And that's in this league, honestly, if you want an explosive offense, I've already talked about this. I talked about it last week. If you want an explosive offense, that's what you got to do. You got to put together a skill group that features 3 legit receivers. Troy Aikman just said, you're only as good as your third receiver, man. Your offense is only as good as your third receiver. Like, that's so true because eventually they're going to shut down your number 1 dude. They're going to try to take him away, you know, and it's hard to take away your number 1 if that guy's versatile like a Cooper Kupp because they can just put him in the slot, move him around, send him in motion. You can't jam him, and now he gets a free run off the line of scrimmage. And who's stopping Cooper Kupp from getting open once he's got a free release? So it's tough when your guy can move around and do some of the things like Cooper Kupp can. But at some point, your number 1 is going to be slowed down, like the Chiefs slowed down Stephon Diggs. And your number 2 is cool, but your number 2 is a number 2 for a reason. So at some point, you're going to need your third guy to step up. And Gabe Davis did that for the Bills. And we've seen other, number 3 step up for some of these teams, in the playoffs. And the more you have at the skill positions, the merrier. So Gabe Davis is a stud, but you also have Dawson Knox at tight end. You also got a bevy of backs. I thought that at the end of this season, we really started to see Motor step it up because I thought he was struggling early on in the season, and the Bills were getting away from running the football. I thought towards the end of the season, they got back to it. Motor started to get the rock and started to show his versatility as a pass catcher as well. So it's just a bevy of weapons. And you want to have an explosive, dynamic offense, you need a bevy of weapons. Niners fan, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for the super chat and doubling up. My guy, Niners fan, writes, year a failure because we blew a golden chance at a Super Bowl. Yeah. I mean, the frustration of the season sets in now. And so you can term the season a failure. This season wasn't a Super Bowl or bust type of year like it was for the Rams. You didn't come out of the gate saying, we either win a Super Bowl this year or else. No, you were an afterthought. When the season started, your division looked like this. The Rams, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and then, hey, it'd be cool if the 49ers made it interesting and somehow every team in that division was over 500. But you were the team that everybody was looking at as that fourth, that last wheel, like, just drag them along. And at some points during the season, it looked like that. Now, I get what you're saying, that you had an opportunity, you didn't seize it, and so it feels like a failure. I get it. Totally understand that concept. But at the same time, you could also look at it from the perspective of the fact that we were even there is a miracle. Yeah, the NFC was wide open. The AFC is wide open. And I talked about it before the playoffs started. Anybody could win the Super Bowl, which is why you're frustrated, because you felt like, shit, we could have won the Super Bowl this year. And you were one game away from going to the Super Bowl and having a chance to do exactly that. So, yes, it's frustrating. But at the same time, after the season has, kind of settled down, you've had a chance to decompress, and the sting of this loss wears off, you'll be able to take a step back and I think honestly assess this season and say, man, what the hell? We had a hell of a run. It's disappointing the way it ended. And, we could have won the Super Bowl, but as a 6 seed with the deficiencies and the limitations that we had as a football team, we got to the championship game and came within 3 points of moving on. It's a pretty damn good accomplishment. Again, nobody's looking for, a pat on the back at this current moment. That's for later. You reflect on the good things later on when the sting and the disappointment and the frustration wears off. Nobody's trying to hear that right now. You're not trying to hear that shit right now. And I get that. I'm telling you this for a month and a half from now, when you start to turn your focus to free agency and the draft and this shit starts to subside. That's when you can reflect and say, man, we had a hell of a run. Right now, you're disappointed because this was an opportunity missed. There were plays in this game that were there to be made, and if you make them, the outcome could be different. But you did it. So, Warren Jackson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Warren Jackson writes, Washington football team should use Gibson like Debo, move him around. I've heard someone say that before. He's not Debo Samuel, though. He's not a natural wide receiver. Even though he played it at Memphis, he's not a natural receiver. Could they move him around more? Sure. I think when they drafted him, that's what they envisioned him being, a guy that could be a chess piece. But for whatever reason, and look, learning a brand new position at the NFL level is hard to do. And you got to take that into consideration with Antonio Gibson. He's still learning the running back position. As he grasps that position more, then they'll be allowed to do more because he won't have to think as much. But he's still a work in progress. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Metaphor, who writes, Jimmy G had into the USFL in April trade bombshell. I saw another commercial for the USFL. I'll talk to you guys about that as we get closer on the podcast. Ask you will you watch it, just like we did with the AAF, just like we did with the XFL, the second coronation. And everybody will say the same thing they always say. I'll say the same shit I always say. Hey, I'm going to watch this first, week of football and see what it's like. Then we'll come back and say, oh, okay, it's football. It's lower grade football than what we're used to. It's not even college football, and I'm good. We're going to hear a bunch of names of guys that used to be in the league or used to be in college. They didn't quite make it. And we go, oh, okay, that's cool. And then we're going to move on. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to give it a chance. Let's see. All right, that is the final super chat that we have for the night. And I did want to acknowledge one thing. So I read an article, I think it was 2 days ago, that said, I know some of you don't give a shit about this. I do, especially for the teams that I like. And the Joe Buck, Troy Aikman team is one that I like. I know a lot of you can't stand, Joe Buck or can't stand Troy Aikman, think he's a homer. I don't. I don't think any of the former Cowboys that do games are homers. I don't think Moose Johnson is a homer. I don't think, Troy Aikman is a homer. Are they secretly rooting for the Cowboys? Absolutely. That's the team they spent their whole careers with. Why wouldn't they? They're always going to be fans of the Cowboys. They're always going to want to see the Cowboys do well, but they do their job objectively. I think they do a really good job. And then there's some times where you can kind of feel some of that coming out in their broadcast. But at the end of the day, Troy Aikman does a hell of a job on Fox with Joe Buck. And their voice, for me, is synonymous with big NFC football, period. It's like when I was growing up with Madden and Summerall. You were getting a big NFC game, and if it was on Fox, you knew you were getting Madden and Summerall. And it felt big when those guys were doing the game. Troy Aikman's contract with Fox is about to be up. And it sounds like he is going to be going over to Amazon. Remember, Amazon is getting that package in the upcoming season. It starts in 2022. It may not start till 2023. I think it's in 2022. And he's going to be doing their Thursday night games in their package. And if Fox isn't serious about, coughing up the bag, that will be the end of the Buck Aikman era on Fox. And a lot of rumors are that Sean Payton is the guy that they've got their eye on to replace Aikman and slide Sean Payton right on in and have him be their new analyst. I don't know if I buy that. I don't know if I want to hear from Sean Payton. Everybody, just because they played or are a coach, doesn't mean they're necessarily destined for the booth or going to do a great job in the booth. That said, I hope they figure it out. It'll be weird if Troy isn't there. I really like the job that he does. Anyway, I digress. I am going to see you guys tomorrow on the podcast. We will really talk about this week, Sunday football action, talk about the matchup that we now have, among other topics. And I got a couple of interesting things I want to throw your way. It may not be tomorrow, maybe Wednesday or some other day. But remember, there is no football games this weekend. For the first time since August, there will be a weekend without football. Then we will get one more game, and then we will be 6 months without football. So there will be the Pro Bowl, I think, this week. That doesn't count, right? I think there might be the Senior Bowl this week, too. They usually do it in between that week. So I think the Senior Bowl is this week. And if it is, in fact, this week, I'm going to be watching it very carefully to see what's going on there, more carefully than I usually follow it. So I'll be keeping tabs on that. Matter of fact, let's check and see when the Senior Bowl. When is the Senior Bowl? It is February 5th, which means it's this week. So Senior Bowl week will be this entire week. And my hope is to be able to give you some coverage of Senior Bowl week, what I've seen, what I've learned from Senior Bowl week, and who are your risers, who are your fallers, things of that nature. I'll see if I can get into it. I've never been a big Senior Bowl guy in the past, but now that we need a quarterback and most of the top quarterback stands for Matt Corral are going to be there, I think it's important that we do a little bit of extra homework this year. So we'll see about that. In any event, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Thank you guys for joining me for both of these streams, if you were here for both or just this one. Two fantastic football games, a field goal, the difference in each of these games. One going to overtime in the Bengals and Chiefs, the other down to the wire with a field goal being kicked with under 2 minutes to go in the ball game. So Both of these contests were fantastic. The NFL playoffs have been phenomenal after the Super Wild Card weekend. Everything has just been nip and tuck. All 4 divisional round games end on walk-offs. These 2 games end on late field goals, one in walk-off fashion again. The NFL playoffs reign supreme and continue to show why this is the best package and the best product out there. And this was a phenomenal weekend, and now we're down to one game, and there were just 2. Now there were two teams left battling for one trophy. Cincinnati Bengals. Who would have thought, of all the teams coming into the playoffs on the AFC side of the bracket? And I was adamant that anybody could win it. It's proving true right now by the fact that we're getting 2 4 seeds squaring off. When's the last time we had that? When's the last time we had a Super Bowl where there wasn't a 1, 2, or 3 seed coming out of either bracket? We're literally getting 2 4 seeds squaring off. But the Bengals coming out of the AFC is the one that's surprising. I really wonder, would they have beaten Buffalo? I don't think they would have. I don't think they would have beaten Buffalo. But that's nor here nor there. The Bengals go to Arrowhead and win in overtime, 27-24. The Rams hold on for dear life after falling down by 10, 17-7. They rally back, score 13 unanswered points, win the football game 20-17. So those are our 2 competitors left in this tournament. Bengals on the AFC side of the bracket, Rams on the NFC side. We've got 2 weeks to talk this game up, talk about what matchups are going to be key and keys to victory. We'll save that for closer to the game. There's so many things that'll be happening in between there. And now, like, Washington getting a new name, the Senior Bowl. Who gives a shit about the Pro Bowl, right? More coaches to be hired. I think Josh McDaniels is all but official in Vegas. So much to talk about. We'll kind of nail a lot of that stuff down tomorrow on the podcast. But in any event, I got a couple super chats here on the way out. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Metaphor writes, remember, there is football Wednesday morning. Be there. I'm definitely going to be there. I've already said rebranding breakfast, 7 o'clock sharp. See you in the morning. Cold still in your eyes. Make sure you brush your mouth. No funky mouths at this breakfast ordeal here, okay? Everybody, wash your face, wash your mouth. I don't want to smell your stench through the phone or through the computer monitor, okay? Let's groom ourselves before we show up to this thing, all right? But I would definitely be there on Wednesday for the rebrand. And we may be sitting there for 2 hours because they're gonna string this thing out. But whenever they decide to reveal it, we'll be there live for it. Hopefully you'll be there with me as we look forward to seeing what the new name of the team will be. Captain Spartan 04, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Cap writes, these games really show me how important it is to claim your division. If you're not playing them in the playoffs, root for them to succeed. If you are, then you need to show them who's boss. I've always been a division pride guy, but at the same time, I never want to see my division win anything other than us because there's just too much bragging rights, on the line. Cowboys win something, you'll never hear the end of it. Eagles fans win something that you would have thought they've won at the Super Bowl for every year since the existence of the NFL. Giants are pretty humble, but I just hate their ownership. Can't stand them. They're pompous, arrogant jerks that I love the fact that they're struggling right now and that, he felt embarrassed the whole year. I love it. I can't stand the Mars. So, while there is a level of pride, and I always tell people, look, don't talk shit about my division. We can talk shit about each other because it's family. You're not a part of this family. Keep your damn nose out of our business. That said, sometimes there is a little solace in saying, hey, that's my division. I would rather the division be really good, have 3 teams make it for the division, and then, my team be the lone team standing when it's all said and done from the division. But you want your division to be good because iron sharpens iron. You know, the reason the 49ers made it to the NFC Championship game, the reason the Rams made it to because they had to get out of the wild, wild West. The reason the Chiefs made it to the AFC Championship is because their division is tough as nails. Yeah, they got a ton of talent, but when you play those caliber of teams all year long and you find a way to navigate it and win the division, it means something. Or make it to the playoffs, it means something. Same could be said with Cincinnati. Same could be said, like, that's why the Titans, it's not a surprise they got beat. They feasted on the little sisters of the poor. It's not a surprise Dallas was one and done. They feasted on a garbage division again. That's why they went 6-0 in the division. They weren't battle tested enough. So when the playoffs showed up and they needed to man up and get chesty, they couldn't do it because they didn't have a strong enough division. Iron sharpens iron. So yeah, there's a little bit of that. But at its core, no fan of a team wants to see another team in their division succeed. That's tough. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me on the stream. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys on tomorrow for the podcast, on Wednesday for some of you, for the reveal of the new name and the new jerseys and the new look and just the whole entire rebrand itself. And so we'll be live for that on Wednesday morning, 7, bright and early. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to the Senior Bowl this week, kind of checking that out, seeing how that goes, kind of keeping you abreast of that situation and so much more. You know, we're about to turn it up here on the Louie T Network, and I want all of you guys to come along for the ride. So if you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit the like button as it helps this channel grow exponentially. Got a super chat to take us home from DCJ. Thank you for the super chat, DCJ. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, "What's good, Lou?" It's good, DCJ. Says, "I knew Joey B was nice, but kid is ice cold. This puts more pressure on Fields and Tua, etc. You got a ball or team's going to move on." And yeah, it is going to put pressure on, you know, quarterbacks like that. But really, it ups the ante. It takes that bar and it heightens it. And that's why a draft class like the one we're staring at isn't that appealing to me, because of what I've seen come down the pipeline from a talent perspective the last, 2 years in the draft. I'm looking at this draft class and saying it don't look anything like last year's draft class or the draft class before that, or the 18 draft class with Allen and Mayfield and Darnold and all those guys, Jackson and all those guys, Rosen, were drafted in the first round. Doesn't look like that draft class, you know what I mean? Even though all those guys haven't turned out to be any good. Allen, Jackson, Jackson's already a league MVP. Allen's going to be a league MVP at some point, and you already see how good he is. Mayfield, jury's still out on him. I still think that he's a good quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. The other two stink. But that was a talented draft class. You felt good, like there was enough, supply to meet the demand. I don't feel that way this year, but I could be wrong. But what, watching these playoffs, and it does this every year, but, seeing a young guy like Joe Burrow, I think this makes it different because this is a second-year quarterback we're talking about. We don't see that very often. Yeah, it's one thing to see a young quarterback 4 or 5 years into the league. Mahomes, for instance. It was his third year that he finally made it to a Super Bowl and won it. Yeah, second year as a starter, but third year in the league because he didn't start that whole first year. Like, it's hard to win in this league and win big and win early. And we're seeing Burrow do that. And it's just changing the way you view some of these young quarterbacks. So, yeah, we'll see, man. It's definitely going to put pressure on some of these other young quarterbacks to produce. Because everyone's looking for their Joe Burrow. Everyone's looking for their Josh Allen, their Justin Herbert, or their Patrick Mahomes. Everybody's looking for that next it guy. And maybe they do exist out there. Maybe they don't. But that's not going to stop teams from looking. So if what you've got isn't good enough, they're going to move on. And, we live in a day and age where teams are very readily available to move on. They're not looking to wait. it's refreshing to see the Giants give Daniel Jones another opportunity, even though I think he may stink. That's refreshing to see that happen. It's refreshing to see the Dolphins say, no, we're choosing Tua, even if there was a power struggle there. And I hate the fact that Brian Flores got fired and still doesn't have a job yet. It's refreshing for them to say, no. We spent a top 5 pick on this kid. We're going to keep him. We're going to start him. And we're going to see what he can do. So I like that, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's going to do it. I'm going to get out of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Bengals, Rams, celebrate! Your teams are going to the Super Bowl 56, February 13th, live from LA. Should be a dandy. Bart Scott. Can't wait. Who would have thought? I wonder if anybody put down, a hundo on the Bengals before the season started to make it to the Super Bowl and win it. Yeah, I'd love to see what those odds were. Love to know what those were. Somebody could really be cashing out on a futures bet if they had the balls to just put down a hundo on the Bengals before the season started. In any event, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. You know what it is. Until next time, Super Bowl set. Bengals versus Rams. From LA, Super Bowl 56. Should be a good one. You guys enjoy. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless and good night. Peace.